Hi, this is May.
And I'm Joy.
Welcome to the QWERTY Writing Life Podcast, where we have candid chats about our creative lives.
May and I are friends, writers, and creatives who want to share our endeavors out loud.
On this podcast, we're here to encourage each other, and you too,
and share tools we've discovered or made up.
So you can follow your passions with a little support. So grab your tea
or your coffee,
and let's get started. It's another week, everyone, and we are back. So excited to be here with you tonight, or today, whenever you are listening to this episode. We are going to talk about something kind of sad, but also universal, so we feel like it's a really important topic. It's healing from your creative downfalls. But before we talk about that, we are going to review our creative weeks. So what did you do, Joy?
So the past week, and really the past couple of weeks, I've had several events for my launch of my book, and I wanted to do some unique things at these book events and, give special little talks and stuff, but I also wanted to have something to give away. And so for one of them, I had recipe cards with recipes that are inspired by the book, because it's a Southern fiction book. So, in the South, we do like our food. So I actually had a lot of great help from my church family. They put together a chicken and dumpling cook-off, and the winning recipe got the honor of being called Mama's Hearty Chicken and Dumplings, which is mentioned in my book. So that was one of the recipes. And then I had several others. So I had that to make, and then I had, for the other event, we had people pre-order. So to get people to pre-order their books from the bookstore, I offered them the first chapter of my novella that'll be out next year. So I had to put that together. I wanted to make it look really pretty. And so I got to pull together a fun little cover with a picture that I'd taken. And with both of these things, my entire family helped me out in making all these. Because, of course, everything has to be so last minute with me. And so I'm last minute, trying to get all this stuff together. And so I had, my daughter's helping me punch holes and put little things in the recipe cards. And my husband's helping me laminate sheets. And, my son's, I guess, cheering me on as he's reading his own books. But anyway, so it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of
helpful.
Yes, exactly. Family involvement and all that kind of good stuff. So, and even my church family helped with the recipe part. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So tell us about you. I know you had a very precious creative week.
Yeah, so last minute, I'm working on a project, it's poetry and art. We're using some alcohol ink on some of the art that we're doing. And so I had some out, and the boys wanted to try it. And it was so much fun. So I had I let them pick their colors, and I let them pick out how they wanted to do it, because there's different ways that you can use alcohol ink. And so one was a felt pad on a bit of a stamp situation. And then another kid chose dropping the ink directly onto the paper and adding alcohol and just letting it kind of move everywhere and do how it wanted to do. And it was so funny, because when it came out at the end, when they were through, theirs were better than mine.
Doesn't that make you feel so great?
They're 4 and 6, guys. If you want to talk about humility, this was a very humiliating moment for me. Just kidding. It was not humiliating. I'm super proud of the way that they turned out. And of course, I was the teacher, so I'm sure I had a bit of a hand in how that happened, right?
There you go.
That can be a little bit of a pride booster.
Absolutely.
But it was so much fun. We had a great time. And it didn't take too long. It took just the right amount of time, so they stayed interested the whole way. And they loved the way that they came out. And Clay even wrote a little, stamped a little note in it, because I had these alphabet stamps too and archival ink. And he wrote, "My name is Clay.
Oh.
I love my family."
Oh, how precious.
I just felt really good about, life at the moment. So So I did that. And another cool thing that happened this week is I was asked to create some journal pages for students who are going. I work at a university, and there are students who go on these trips internationally, domestically, but they go on these trips with purposes, particularly either missional or cultural purposes. And so I've developed journal pages to help them record their trips with specific questions.
Oh, yeah.
And at the end of it, it goes along with the class that they have. So at the end of it, they have recorded these interactions with different people and different cultures and that sort of thing. So they'll pick one, and I will help them with instructions on how to develop that journal page and that interaction into a story that they can share.
That is so cool.
Yeah, I'm pretty geeked about it. It's gonna be really fun, I think.
Oh,
So,
wow.
so I've got the format of and the template of the pages, and so I have to just make them look pretty at this point in time, and get the final sign off of that, and figure out how we're going to have them printed. So
that is
that's
super cool. I really love that. Like, I think about the times that I got to take some trips, and man, I would have loved to have had something like that.
Yeah, me too. I had took some trips in college, and I went to India, and I went to Japan, and I just have my memories. So that's all I really have. I don't have really even pictures because I am so old that digital cameras were not even like invented. Well, they were invented, but they weren't common. So I had money to go on the trip, but I didn't have money for like the film and the process of the film when I came back. So lots of wonderful memories, but that's all I got, guys. But that was my week. Lots of things I'm grateful for this week.
That's good. So I guess that brings us, we're at our topic for tonight, which is healing from creative downfalls. You want to share a little bit of what we were kind of thinking, or a little bit of the inspiration behind this, and why creative downfalls?
So since we've started this podcast, we've had people who've shared their stories with us, and it's such an honor, first of all, for people to feel like they can open up to us, and we want you to feel that way because we do genuinely care.
We do.
And so people have opened up to us and shared some really wonderful things and that have happened, and some maybe not so wonderful things that have happened. So Joy and I felt like maybe this topic of healing from creative downfalls might be helpful to some of the people who listen to our podcast. And we have had some creative downfalls ourselves. So we've experienced them, and we like to think that we come out on the other side a better person and a better creative. So we think we might have something that could be helpful for you.
Definitely. And a lot of things that we've shared before of our own journeys, a lot of those things have been kind of internal, our own struggles with self-doubt and fear and those kinds of things, and those are all kind of the inner things. But this is, we want to focus more on kind of those outside things, those downfalls that come from outside things like rejections and reviews and things like that. So that's kind of where we're gearing this particular episode in a more outer manner. Yes.
And we are also assuming that you are creating from a place inside of you that just needs to create. This is if your creative endeavor is tied to who you expressing who you are, and a bit of your soul. That's kind of where we are.
Yeah. And I think too, like, and even if you are hoping that this will one day bring in money for you, that it will be more of a full-time thing, we all begin, well, I feel like we all begin, I don't know. I can't imagine doing or trying to follow a creative path and not have that passion behind it, regardless of how I'm pursuing it. So we're kind of thinking that you have that whole passion thing going on, that this is something deep within you.
I just wanted to throw that out there for so everybody's on the same page when we're going through this information, because it is an emotional journey for dealing with these problems that happen in our creative lives.
Yeah. And I think creativity, I mean, it starts deep within our hearts, right? Okay, that's where it begins anyway. So that simply means that any negative reaction that comes to the product of our creativity is going to feel like an attack on us personally. It just is. So whether your creative outlet is writing or art or music or whatever it is, you know, if you are doing this, like we talked about, that's coming from deep within you, this is your passion coming out to be shown and shared with the world, any negative reaction on that product really feels like an attack directly to your very core.
It's true. And I know that I've talked before about your self-worth not being tied to the product of your creativity. But even if you know exactly where your self-worth lies, this can still sting. It can still cause you to be sad. It can cause you to cry. It can cause you to be despondent or maybe even a little depressed for a while. So even if your self-worth is in this really nice, healthy place, it's still going to have an emotional reaction. You're still going to have an emotional reaction to creative downfalls.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so some of these, so, you know, you might have things that we would call the career rejections, I think is the term that you used, May. So these are things like, you know, the publishing woes, okay? So this could be something like maybe you have been published before and it went kind of south. It didn't go the way you expected. You didn't have a good experience with the company that you worked with or an editor or agent or, you know, something like that. Something just didn't go well with that part. Could be contest rejections or agent rejections or things like that. So that's kind of, you know, more of the career part of it. I think if I missed any that would kind of fall under that category.
Maybe you self-published your book and just thought it was going to take over the world and it didn't. There's so many things that can happen. There are scam companies out there, and if you don't recognize the signs, and sometimes they're really, really good at covering up those signs too. So don't beat yourself up about that. If you don't recognize the signs, then you can have a bad experience, and it can really cause you to hide inside of yourself and not create again. Another kind of career rejection, which is outside of the actual world of publishing, is whenever you care enough about a passion and you share that passion with someone else and they look at you and they say, "Oh, you write? That's cute. That's real cute. So how do you pay your bills?" You know? Or, "Oh, you're a painter. Oh," you know? "How does your husband feel about that?" You know? So you have a benefactor. It's really weird, right? Well, the reactions that people have to you, it's like, you know, if you don't say that you're in some sort of corporate job, or if you are in some sort of traditional career situation, then you are not, I don't know, like you're not in the group, right? So that can be really hard to handle because you finally feel validated enough to say it out loud. And there it goes again, just another 1-2 punch, right?
I actually had something similar to that happen where someone, and I'm not 100% sure that I heard them completely accurately. I think I did, but if I heard what I think I heard, it was along the lines of, "Oh yeah, that would be nice. That's good that you can do that. I always had to work really hard, like, you know, to make money." Like that was kind of like where it was coming. And I was just like, did that really just happen? That was interesting. You know, it's like one of those things I'm like, oh, wow, that really just happened.
It just, that burns a little.
Yeah. You know, I actually saw on, I think it was on Instagram earlier, someone had posted that people all the time talk about, oh, what an easy thing it must be just to sit around and write. And they kind of, they were saying all the things that we know of how hard it actually is. That it's not just you sit there and daydream and have a cocktail and write something magical. That's not, that's not how it works at all.
Yeah.
But so even things like that, like comments like, "Oh, that must be easy."
Yeah.
Like, oh,
that hurts. It burns as it goes down. So I think that that's just as much as a creative downfall too, because it's something that can take you from that peak and make you roll down the hill. That's kind of where I was going with the creative career rejections. Excuse me.
Yeah.
But there are other things too, like you can hand your prized possessions that you've created to other people, and people that you love, and who love you, who don't understand the work that went into it and the amount of you that is in that project, and they maybe brush it off or just don't rave over it the way that you really hope that they do, you really hope that they would. That can be painful as well, and they might actually be the ones who might be saying that, so when are you going to get a real job, that kind of thing, and they don't mean it in a negative way. They just really want to know, because real job, it means something different than it does to you. It's not that they're trying to run over your emotions with a Mack truck, but they do it anyway. So
yeah, like they don't understand the creative thing, and they can't see it like we see it, and so sometimes that's just the problem. Like, it's just a different mindset sometimes.
We also have painful reviews, because as writers and as artists, we are hoping that other people will view our art, and there are going to be people who don't like it.
Yeah.
It's just a fact, And we've talked before about how people perceive art. Like, once we put it out into the world, it's filtered through their experiences, their convictions, their worldviews, their preferences, and they're allowed to have a negative opinion about what they're viewing. It's their opinion. But sometimes it's really painful.
And that's something that, as the person who is putting your work out there, one of the most encouraging things that I ever did was to go through reviews for, well-known authors. And so I went through and I looked at 1 stars, 5 stars, and 3 stars, and I read the range. And what I found was the same thing that this one person in the 5-star review raved about because they loved it was the thing that this person over here in the 1-star review ragged on. They were like, that was the worst thing ever. Okay, so that's the thing. Make your art. Make your art the way that you need to make your art, and you're going to find the people who appreciate it. And yes, there are going to be the people who don't, and they don't like it. But you know what? That's there's nothing you can do about that. And so you have to learn to, take the good with the bad and understand that not everyone is going to love it, and that's okay.
Yeah. I hate to say it, and it really burdens me, but there are people in this world who do not like Jane Austen.
I love you. I appreciate her so much, and I want to like her. I do. I so do.
So if just take that into your heart for a moment, and that if there are people in this world who do not like Jane Austen, then there are people in this world who are not going to like.
There you
go. your book.
Well played. Well played.
Mic drop. So what do you do, like, when you're down in the dumps over this creative downfall that has happened to you, and you don't feel like you're ever going to be able to move on and create again? So the first thing that we want to say is that if you don't know where your worth lies, we really hope that you find out where that is. So Joy and I are both believers, and so we're like going back and reviewing where our hope lies and reminding ourselves of what our God thinks of us is really helpful.
It is. It is.
In that situation. We know, we just have to remind ourselves that we are worthy, that we are loved, and that we have been given this as a gift to share with other people.
That makes a huge difference. I mean, yeah, because our Creator created us to create. And so there you go.
So surround yourself with that knowledge, and then also surround yourself with other people who are encouragers of you and of your art.
They're the ones who really know the heart behind your work. And I think that makes a big difference. It's not that they're always going to be like, oh, you were the best thing since sliced bread. Like, it's not that kind of thing. It's the kind of thing where they know you, they know your heart and your desires, and they're there to support you in that. And they'll, when they see you veering away from that heart or the core of who you are, they're going to get you back on track. Or if they see something that you can improve, they're going to tell you. So it's not like, it's not like they're just, oh, I'm going to write you a 5-star review even if you put out something really crappy. Like, it's not like that. They have your back, and they're there to cheer you on and encourage you and guide you.
Exactly. And those are the people who are going to tell you the truth, and those are the people who are going to remember what you were like when you were making that piece. And they're going to remind you about the light and the joy that creating gives you. And frankly, they're probably going to remind you that you're a better person whenever you're creating. So,
that is true.
we are. We're not as grumpy.
That is very true. If I start getting grumpy, just hand me a pen and, leave me alone for a little while.
Yeah. So the next thing that could help build you up after a creative downfall could be to allow yourself to feel the feelings. And I know that's not what anybody wants to hear. So society has told us that negative feelings and crying and just being grumpy for a while is not a good thing to be. But we have to allow ourselves to feel the way that we feel, and we have to understand that it's not a bad thing to have these feelings. It's just human. Like, we're just human, and we get sad, and we need to cry, and we need to express ourselves in this particular way. And sometimes we need to throw some punches at a punching bag, or, hit a tree or something. And there's nothing wrong with that. And once you allow yourself to feel those feelings and just cry it out, at the end of that cry, you take a little nap, and then you wake up and you're ready to go again.
The important thing there is to get back up. Yeah, to let yourself go through that and then get back up.
The important thing in all of these solutions is to get back up and don't stop creating. Know where your worth lies. Surround yourself with people who encourage you and who make you feel good about yourself, and allow yourself to feel the feelings. But after all of that, get back up and create something new.
Yes, definitely. Don't just let yourself stay there. Keep going forward, because you know how important that creating is to you. Don't lose that. Just don't.
And our instinct is to feel these feelings, to feel bad about feeling these feelings, to thinking that we can't cut it, that what we're creating isn't worth anything. That's our instinct, to just stay right here in this place. It's like we've been schooled. It's like we've been punished. But the best thing is on the other side of that, because not only will we continue to create, we will have learned something new about ourselves, about our persistence, about our calling, and about other people as well. So even if somebody does something to you that is just evil, just there is nothing good that you can find, or no saving grace after what this person has said or done to you about your creative work. Even if that's the situation, you can still find something good in it, because you know how not to treat other people at that point.
Yeah. And you then have a story to tell to help someone else who faces that one day. You can say, you know what, I went through that same thing, and it hurt. It hurt like anything. But you know what? I got back up, and I kept going. And there you go. You have a story that can help someone else get back up and keep going.
That's true. That is such a good point. So what we also have to realize too is that downfalls are not going to just happen once. They're going to be repetitive, and it's going to be this iterative process where you get hit and then you go down into this black place and then you fight your way back up, and then you get hit again and you go down to the black place and you get back up and you go again, over and over again. So I know personally, like whenever I get a critique back, and all critiques hurt, whether it comes from somebody who loves you or somebody who doesn't love you so much, all critiques hurt. So my emotional process is I work on something, I give it to Joy, Joy sends it back, there's red ink everywhere, I open up the document, I look at it for just a little bit, I read, I read as much as I can read until the emotions build, and I have to walk outside. I literally walk outside and I walk around the house. Then I come back in and I read a little bit more until I get through the whole document. And then I take some time to just let it percolate, because there are some good things in there. There are some things that hurt, but there are some good things in there too. And so I'm trying to let it percolate, realize that there is still worth in the story, realize that I'm not a failure, that I'm not a horrible writer, that there's something that can be salvaged. Et cetera, like it's like a little Rocky pep talk while I'm walking around. I will go to bed and I'll wake up the next day and I will write down the things that I can remember that are the most important, and I make a plan, get back to work. So that's my emotional process. Do you have an emotional process?
Mine's very similar, yeah. And another thing is I've realized I feel like it is getting a little easier. I mean, not that it's ever like super easy, but with each critique, with each project, with each thing that comes up, it does get a little easier to process and then to move on. So, I actually have several critique partners, and so when I get the critiques back, I do very similar to what you do. I scan, basically. I do a very quick read of all of the notes and, looking over any comments and, things in the document. And I give it a very quick scan so that I kind of take it all in, and then I set it aside, and I usually take a day and then come back to it, because there are going to be things, and I know that about myself, like there are going to be certain things that I'm immediately going to be very, what's the word I'm looking for? Just very defensive against.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely that, getting that distance and having time to kind of think through the overall things before you really dive in, and then just keep going. And the thing is, and this is something that I had to learn, is you should process it, but only process so long, because if you go a little too long, you're not processing anymore. You're actually wallowing. and I am saying this because I feel like there's going to be a time where I'm going to have to listen to this episode again and listen to myself. So there you go, future me. Stop wallowing. You've gone way beyond the processing point. So you have to learn what that is for you, though. I mean, I think everybody has a different amount of time that they need to process. And I think we also all know when we get past that and we're actually wallowing in it and we're not helping ourselves or anyone else at that point.
I don't even know if it's like the 5 stages of grief or something that you might have to go through.
It really might be.
Grieve. This piece of your pride that no longer exists,
Right. But I was about, there we go. So it is time for the QWERTY Challenge.
It is. So we're going to be a little introspective today for the QWERTY Challenge. So what we would like you to do is going to be a little hard, but you can do it. We really do think you can. We just want you to think back to some of the creative downfalls that you've had in your own life. And have you healed from those? Are those wounds still open, or have you healed from those? Have you healed wrongly, and maybe you're bitter and you're just cut off from your creative vein because of the way that you've healed from these? So if that's the case, maybe it's time to find a way to accept what happened and to find your nugget of goodness, your nugget of truth that lies in there. And also, we want you to think about how you process those downfalls. We'd like for you to notice any repetitive emotional responses and to learn and recognize the way that you respond to these downfalls so that you can learn your process, that you can learn the way that you emotionally handle these things. You can recognize them, and hopefully you will bounce back a little quicker every time.
We hope that you guys have an amazing week, and we hope that this helps you. And if you have anything you want to share, or if you have questions, or just anything, we'd love to hear from you. We hope you have a great creative week.
See you next time.
Bye.
Thanks for listening until the end.
Seriously, you're a trooper.
Do you think QWERTY Writing Life is the bomb?
May, you just said the bomb.
Don't you censor me.
If you think QWERTY Writing Life rocks ice for real,
Oh my word.
please rate, review, and share us with others.
If you have questions about this week's episode or want to start a conversation, you can reach us by visiting QWERTYWritingLife.podbean.com.
We'll be back next week with more candid chats for you.